According to recent 2026 research from McKinsey, 73% of executives still cannot connect their technology investments to measurable business outcomes. That means 3 out of 4 leaders in your boardroom are spending millions on features nobody is tracking the return on. And that gap? It's costing companies in Southeast Asia an average of $2.3 million per year in wasted digital infrastructure. You know the pattern. Your team pitches a new platform. The vendor walks you through the interface, the dashboard, the integrations. Everything sounds revolutionary. You sign the contract. You roll it out. 3 months in, nobody can tell you if it actually moved the needle on revenue, cost reduction, or customer retention. Instead, what you've got is another tool sitting in your tech stack, another password your team has to remember, and another line item on next quarter's budget that's harder to justify than it was in month 1. The worst part: the blame gets distributed everywhere except where it belongs. Your finance team says the adoption was too slow. Your operations team says the requirements weren't clear. The vendor says you didn't implement it correctly. Meanwhile, your CFO is in your office asking why the digital transformation budget keeps growing while the returns stay flat. In this video, we're going to rebuild how you think about technology investment from the ground up. Not the features, not the brand, not the hype, the return. Specifically, we're breaking down 3 frameworks that separate executives who actually multiply their wealth through smart technology decisions from those who just accumulate expensive tools. By the end of this, you'll have a language to use in your next vendor meeting that will immediately separate the serious partners from the ones selling you complexity. And more importantly, you'll have a way to pressure test every technology decision before it costs you. This isn't a technical tutorial. This is capital allocation strategy. And your career depends on getting it right. Framework 1. The outcome inversion model. Most leaders start with technology and work backwards to ROI. That's backwards. Start with the outcome you need. Then ask if technology is even required. Here's the evidence. Deloitte's 2026 State of Digital Banking report found that Indian fintech companies that defined their business outcome first before selecting technology saw a 67% faster time to value than those that started with vendor selection. They didn't ask what was the coolest feature. They asked what is the business problem we're actually solving. Real example. A wealth management firm in Singapore with 12 billion in AUM was losing high net worth clients to faster moving competitors. Their leadership team wanted to implement an AI-powered robo-advisor. But before they did, they inverted the question. The actual outcome wasn't robo-advice. The outcome was reducing client advisory meeting prep time from 8 hours to 2 hours per week. That was the real constraint. So they didn't need a robo-advisor system. They needed a data aggregation platform that cleaned and organized client portfolios in real time. Cost: $400,000. A robo-advisor would have cost $2.4 million. Same outcome, same speed, 90% cost reduction. How you apply this? Before your next technology evaluation, freeze the RFP process. Get your operations, leadership, and finance team in a room. Write down the specific business outcome in 1 sentence. Not aspirational. Measurable. Then list the 3 metrics that prove you achieved it. Only then do you evaluate vendors. You'll eliminate 40% of the options immediately. Framework 2. The cannibalization cost. This is the one nobody talks about. And it's where most technology ROI disappears. When you implement a new system, you don't just add productivity. You disrupt it. Your team learns a new interface. They run parallel processes during transition. They make mistakes because they're not fluent yet. And there's the switching cost from whatever they were doing before. According to recent Gartner research from 2026, knowledge workers spend an average of 11 hours per week managing multiple non-integrated systems in Southeast Asia specifically. That number climbs to 14 hours per week in large enterprises due to legacy system complexity. At an average loaded cost of $85 per hour. That's $61,620 per knowledge worker per year. That's your hidden tax on poor technology integration. Real example. A wealth advisory firm in Mumbai implemented a new CRM system to improve client relationship management. On paper, it promised to save 3 hours per week per advisor by automating follow-up workflows. But during the 8-week transition period, advisors were actually working 10 additional hours per week moving data, learning the system, and running both the old and new processes simultaneously. The firm had 120 advisors. 8 weeks. Effective cost: $1.3 million in buried labor. And here's the part that should keep you awake at night. That same system took 14 weeks to reach break even because the actual adoption plateau was 47% lower than the vendor promised. They never got the 3 hours back per week. They got 1.6 hours. How you apply this? When a vendor tells you the productivity gain, divide it by 3. That's the realistic adoption number. Then calculate the transition cost as a percentage of the total contract value. If transition costs exceed 35% of the deal, you're buying expensive disruption, not transformation. Framework 3. The optionality trap. Here's what most executives don't see coming. You buy a system because you need it to do X, Y, and Z. The vendor throws in 12 additional features that you might use someday. So you pay for all of it. But those optional capabilities you never use, they create technical debt. They require infrastructure. They demand updates. They distract your team. World Economic Forum data from 2026 on enterprise software spending shows that companies spend in average of 27% of their software budget maintaining and updating features that are actively used by fewer than 5% of their teams in the Asia-Pacific region. That inefficiency is even sharper, climbing to 34% in Singapore and India due to distributed team complexity. Real example. A fintech platform serving Southeast Asia purchased an enterprise data platform with 40 distinct modules. They activated 8 of them. For 3 years, they paid licensing, maintenance, and infrastructure costs for all 40. When they finally audited the contract and reduced their footprint to only the 8 modules they actually used, their annual software spend dropped by $2.8 million. Same capabilities? Same output. They were just paying for complexity they inherited, not capabilities they used. The mechanism of the trap is simple. Optionality feels like insurance. It's not. It's a drag on capital efficiency. How you apply this? Before you sign any technology contract, mandate that your vendor provide a map of every feature and which team owns its adoption. Anything with 0 owners does not get licensed. Make it a written requirement. You'll cut 20 to 30% of unnecessary spend immediately. And your team will actually focus on what matters. When you invert your thinking from technology first to outcome first, something shifts. Your conversations with vendors change. Your board presentations get sharper, and your capital allocation actually starts to show returns. The executives who are winning right now in 2026 don't have the most advanced tech stack. They have the most disciplined one. They've mapped every system to a specific outcome. They've calculated the true adoption cost, not the promised cost, and they've ruthlessly cut optionality in favor of focus. That's not boring. That's wealth building. That's the difference between a leader who spends on technology and a leader who invests in it. In Singapore, we're seeing wealth firms that operated with this discipline grow their AUM at 3.2 times the rate of their peers over the last 2 years. In India, fintech executives who practice outcome inversion are deploying capital 40% faster because they're not debating features. They're debating business results. This is the conversation that happens in executive suites now. Not what's the newest platform, but what outcome costs us the most capital to achieve today? And is the new system the most efficient path to that outcome or just the most visible one? That precision is the difference between building wealth through technology or just building a bigger bill. If this framework shifted how you're thinking about your next vendor evaluation or digital transformation initiative, subscribe to Apex Minds D4J right now and hit the notification bell. You need this content in your feed every single week. Drop a comment below. What's one technology investment you've made in the last 2 years that never delivered the promised ROI? We're building a community of executives who. Thanks for listening. If you found this valuable, please subscribe to Apex Minds D4J for more powerful insights. See you in the next one.